Young Dolph's killer just folded in court and spilled everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times that shot out.
Aiming for Dolph.
Oh, I ain't know.
Was he able to say anything to y'all, or was he able to run or get away at all?
I shot through glass, so I want close up on him. I'll shoot through glass.
Young Dolph's alleged killer just crumbled in court and dropped a bombshell that shook the whole courtroom. He didn't just admit to squeezing the trigger, he flat out claimed that Big Jook gave the order and even pointed fingers at Yo Gotti himself. According to him, Gotti wasn't just watching from the sidelines, he was pulling strings behind the scenes. Word on the street is Gotti could be facing cuffs sooner than anyone thought, and Memphis is buzzing like never before. Picture the scene. A packed Memphis courtroom, tension so thick you could slice it with a blade, and one of the very dudes accused of taking Young Dolph's life is sitting on the stand. Instead of holding the so-called street code, he decides to snitch in the loudest way possible, spilling tea that could flip the entire rap game upside down. The man who turned the tables?
Say y'all.
Yeah, that's us right there.
Stop it here.
It's me.
Cornelius Smith, one of the two alleged shooters tied to Dolph's tragic death. But here's the kicker. Smith wasn't just admitting to being part of the hit. He started unraveling what prosecutors are calling a full-on conspiracy that allegedly traces straight to the top of Memphis's rap empire, Collective Music Group. When the prosecutors pulled up that chilling surveillance footage, those last moments of Adolph Thornton Jr.'s life, Smith didn't even blink.
Can you stop it? All right. We're gonna back up. I wanted to, back up a little bit. All right. First guy out of the car, who's that?
It's me.
No excuses, no fake tears, just ice-cold truth. As he pointed to the footage showing him and his partner rolling out with deadly intent,
You. Which one of the guns do you have?
I got the little Draco style gun.
Okay, that's that semi-automatic weapon, is that right?
Yeah.
You ever shot that thing before?
the silence in that courtroom was different. Everyone knew this wasn't just another street beef. It was about to tie some of the South's most powerful names into a murder plot that forever scarred hip-hop history. Prosecutors grilled Smith like it was Judgment Day. Who stepped out the whip first? What type of artillery was in their hands? And Smith, he kept it raw. No stuttering, no dodging. Laying it all out detail by detail. The tale Cornelius Smith was spilling in court wasn't brand new. It was the kind of story that had floated through the hood for years, whispered in barbershops, passed around on block corners, but never once said under oath where it could put people behind bars for life. And now, it wasn't just street gossip anymore, it was being stamped into legal record. But before we lock in on Smith's explosive courtroom testimony that had the trap world trembling, you gotta understand the roots of this bloody saga, the rivalries, the egos, and the politics of Memphis streets that turned deadly on November 17th, 2021. That was the day Young Dolph walked into Makita's homemade butter cookies and never made it out alive. 22 shots tore through his body, hitting his neck, his back, his arms. Memphis lost a legend in cold blood. This beef didn't spark overnight. It had been simmering since 2014. Back then, Dolph dropped High Class Street Music 4. American Gangster and Yo Gotti came knocking with a deal. But Dolph wasn't feeling it. He turned it down flat, choosing to ride independent and stack his own paper instead of jumping on another man's wave. What seemed like just a smart business move would slowly snowball into one of hip-hop's deadliest vendettas. Dolph's reasoning was simple. Why split a bag when you can own the whole bag? But according to later interviews and now courtroom testimony, that no cut deep. Word is, Gotti took the rejection personal. And in Memphis, where respect means everything, that kind of slight was like declaring war. The city's trap scene was already ruthless, but this rejection poured gasoline on the fire. Dolph, a true Memphis native who clawed his way up from the dirt, had built Paper Route Empire brick by brick, turning himself into one of the most successful independents in the rap game. His rise made him a hometown king, while his refusal to bow to CMG's crown was seen as an open challenge to Gotti's throne. By 2016, the tension spilled out into the open. Dolph jumped on Twitter and aired it out, posting that Gotti had gone from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater. That one public call-out lit the fuse. And from then on, the feud exploded across diss tracks, social media posts, and straight-up street drama. The breaking point came when Dolph dropped his album King of Memphis, a title that cut deep because Yo Gotti had been calling himself the King of Memphis for years. Suddenly, it wasn't just rap bragging anymore, it was a direct challenge for the crown. But the heat really turned up when Black Youngsta, one of Gotti's own CMG soldiers, started moving reckless. March 2016, Youngsta hopped on Instagram talking about how he was gonna smack Dolph and then actually pulled up to Dolph's hood strapped and ready. That turned all the talk into real smoke. What followed was violence so wild it sounded like a movie script. February 2017, Dolph's SUV in Charlotte, North Carolina got sprayed with over 100 rounds. That kind of hit was meant to leave no witnesses, but Dolph rolled in a bulletproof whip and walked away untouched. The craziest part? That same night he hit the stage and performed his diss track like nothing had happened. That's the kind of savage energy that made people see him as untouchable. But the streets weren't finished testing him. September 2017, broad daylight in Hollywood, right outside Shoe Palace, Dolph gets lit up again. Multiple shots, body dropping, chaos everywhere. And he's rushed to the hospital fighting for his life. LAPD named Yo Gotti as a person of interest at first, but he was later cleared. Still, the whispers only grew louder.
What you see? What are you feeling?
I want to feel nothing at the time. I ain't gonna even let it. I want to feel nothing at the time. Out here. I'm trying to get some money.
Trying to get some money? Bet you probably would have wasted on oxycodone and ecstasy. You shot that gun a bunch?
Right in there?
Right then and there.
Too many coincidences, too much bad blood. Each attempt on Dolph's life just made him harder, colder, and more respected. Instead of hiding, he doubled down, dropping more fire music, stacking more bread, and proving his paper route empire could thrive without the backing of major labels. He became the face of true independence in an industry run by corporate deals and street-connected labels.
Yeah, I can't do how many times that shot out.
Aiming for Dolph.
I ain't know.
Was he able to say anything to y'all, or was he able to run or get away at all?
I shot through the glass, so I want to close up on him. I'll shoot through glass.
But according to Cornelia Smith's later testimony, Dolph's success wasn't just inspiring fans, it was allegedly making some very powerful people nervous. When Young Dolph hit the Breakfast Club in 2017, he laid it all out raw. The hosts pressed him about the beef. Could he ever respect his rival despite everything? Dolph didn't dodge the question. He explained how a past meeting went left, how he felt flat out disrespected by the way his rival talked down on his own artists. For Dolph, it wasn't about charts or awards. It was about respect.
I saw him standing by the window. I just got out and started shooting.
Proceed till Justin shoots. There with the handgun. Who's that?
Legit.
And once that was gone, there was no fixing it. The host kept asking if the feud could ever be squashed, but Dolph stood firm. No fake smiles, no industry talk. He made it clear there was no peace coming. And right at the center of these dark allegations sat Anthony Big Juk Mims, Yo Gotti's older brother, the man many saw as CMG's street muscle. During Cornelia Smith's shocking testimony, prosecutors dropped a bomb. Big Juk allegedly put a $100,000 bounty on Dolph's head. That claim alone sent shockwaves through hip-hop, sparking debates in every corner of the culture. If true, it meant this wasn't just rap beef.
Did you know that he shot back at y'all?
I ain't noticed until we pulled out. There was a bullet hole in my side window. And I told Jeff, man, I'm hit. He was like, I'm hit too. So I see I'm hit right here on my leg. And I see a bullet hole in my sweater. Damn. So we driving out, he was saying he was hit.
It was an orchestrated hit with 6 figures on the line. But Big Juk's role in the saga would take a chilling twist. January 13th, 2024. Big Juk himself gets gunned down outside a Memphis restaurant. No arrests, no answers, just another body added to a list of unsolved Memphis mysteries. Whispers ran wild. Was this retaliation for Dolph, or was Juk silenced before he could ever reveal what he knew about the conspiracy? Either way, the streets felt the tremor. The circle of players kept coming into focus. Justin Johnson, known in the streets as Straight Drop, was identified as the other shooter.
I'm talking to him, making sure we on Rick, making sure he's straight. I'm like, you alright? He's like, yeah, I'm straight. But this bullet head went in my arm, and it was a bullet in my back.
Rolling alongside Cornelia Smith. But Smith's testimony painted the bigger picture. They weren't masterminds, they were pawns. Just triggermen in what he claimed was a larger scheme that reached deep into the power structure of one of Memphis's most dominant record labels. As prosecutors grilled Smith, the courtroom got colder by the minute. They pressed him on motivation, on what was really running through his mind the day Dolph got dropped. His answer hit different. It wasn't loyalty, it wasn't revenge, it was money. What Cornelia Smith laid out on that witness stand wasn't no random stick-up gone sideways. It was, according to prosecutors, a calculated assassination. He claimed the hit was allegedly green-lit by b.i.g and orchestrated by Hernandez Govan, a man with one foot in the streets and another brushing shoulders with the music industry.
I'm going to back up. You and Justin here are running to the white Mercedes, is that right?
Right.
You get in what side of the car?
I get on the passenger side.
And Justin gets back in the driver's side?
Yeah, he get back in the driver's side.
Y'all get in the car, and you can watch the rest of the video here. Did y'all see Marcus getting a second gun from his car?
Nah, but when we pulled out, and I knew it was shots back, I was finna shoot back, but there were too many cars coming, and I ain't just want to hit no anybody, so I ain't shoot back.
The most chilling part? Smith's raw description of the actual shooting. When prosecutors pressed him about his target and state of mind, he didn't sugarcoat a thing. His response was blunt, cold, and straight to the point, like he was narrating a job, not a murder. Then he kept going, piling on disturbing details that made the courtroom freeze. This wasn't just about wiping out Young Dolph. Smith testified that there were allegedly multiple hits lined up on Paper Route Empire affiliates. It sounded less like a feud and more like a systematic takedown, an attempt to erase Dolph's entire empire off the map. As Smith talked about late-night meetings, promises of money, and cold plans being drawn up, the courtroom began to see the picture prosecutors were painting. This wasn't beef, this was organized, and then came the gut punch. Smith claimed he and Justin Johnson were allegedly promised $40,000 apiece for Dolph's head, while Govan was set to pocket $20,000 for pulling the strings. But the sickest twist? According to Smith, the hit on Dolph doubled as Johnson's audition tape for a CMG record deal, as if murdering a rival was some kind of initiation into rap stardom. That revelation left jaws on the floor. The trap game conspiracy was spilling out like a raid at dawn, messy, chaotic, and exposing everyone's secrets. What started years ago as an industry beef had now allegedly unraveled into a murder-for-hire plot stretching deep into the core of one of the South's most powerful music empires. And the hit itself? It didn't even go the way they planned. Smith admitted that when they rolled up on Dolph, it wasn't a one-sided ambush. Dolph's brother Marcus was there, strapped and ready, and he let shots fly in return. Suddenly, the hunters were being hunted. Smith described the chaos, the deafening blasts, and the split-second realization that they weren't walking away untouched. Both he and Johnson caught hot ones in the crossfire, bleeding from their own botched mission. The detail that both alleged shooters had caught bullets during the ambush sent shockwaves through the courtroom. It wasn't just talk anymore. Those wounds lined up with the chaos Smith described, adding real weight to his story. But instead of backing down, Smith said the injuries only made them hungrier to finish the job they were allegedly paid for. He explained how, even while bleeding, he and Johnson still looked out for each other during the escape. Two men trying to stay alive while carrying out what prosecutors called a murder-for-hire plot. And this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment move. According to Smith, the plan had been laid out with the precision of a corporate takeover. But the goal wasn't profit, it was elimination. At the center of it all was Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind. Locked up on November 10, 2022, Govan is accused of pulling strings from the shadows, bringing the shooters together, and allegedly teaming up with b.i.g to greenlight the hit. What made Govan so dangerous, prosecutors said, was his ability to move in two worlds. He wasn't just a street figure. He understood the mechanics of the music game. And to him, Dolph's independence wasn't just disrespect, it was a business obstacle that needed to be erased. The prosecutors didn't stop pressing. They wanted every step of the escape on record, and Smith obliged, breaking down how he and Johnson dipped from the scene, injured but still moving with deadly intent. Each answer painted a darker picture of just how organized this plot really was. But Smith's testimony revealed something even heavier. According to him, Dolph wasn't the only target. Prosecutors alleged there were more names on the list. Paper Route Empire as a whole was in the crosshairs. The most chilling claim? A $50,000 bounty placed on Key Glock, Dolph's cousin, protege, and closest collaborator. That revelation turned heads. It suggested the alleged conspiracy wasn't just about silencing one man. It was about dismantling an entire empire, brick by brick, artist by artist, until Paper Route was nothing but dust. Smith described meetings, trips to Atlanta, sit-downs where the plan was allegedly mapped out like a business merger. He claimed those sessions with b.i.g and Govan weren't casual. They were calculated. These weren't random link-ups in parking lots.
So, man, hey, y'all, I'm finna start a GoFundMe, man, because I know a lot of you man, can't do no shows. Ain't save no money. So guess what? I'm gonna come say today. I'm gonna come pay you if y'all got someone to stay. I'll pay your car note. I'll pay your jewelry note so you won't get repoed. You feel me? Whatever else you renting or leasing, I'm gonna pay that shit.
Smith described them like boardroom meetings, but instead of album deals, they were allegedly plotting a murder contract. According to his testimony, Justin Johnson wasn't just another shooter. He was an aspiring rapper who believed catching a body could be his ticket into the rap industry's inner circle. Prosecutors claimed b.i.g himself suggested that taking out Young Dolph was the key for Johnson to lock in a CMG deal. Imagine that, the American dream of making it as an artist twisted into a nightmare where stardom was tied to bloodshed. Johnson, in this telling, wasn't just chasing clout. He was allegedly treating murder as an audition. The trial dug into Johnson's mindset, and what surfaced was chilling. Just 5 days after Dolph was gunned down, Johnson dropped a track called Stepped On, complete with a video where he flexed a chain stamped with PRE, Paper Route Empire's initials. To fans, it looked like disrespect. To prosecutors, it was more sinister, a calculated victory lap, flaunting the very empire he was accused of tearing down. But Johnson didn't stop there. While still a fugitive on January 10th, 2022, he released another song, Track Hawk. The lyrics? Spot something moving, then I'm firing, and 50 shots in 20 seconds. On the surface, it sounded like typical trap bravado, but in the context of the charges...
Now, obviously, we haven't really heard much from you since the tragic passing of Dolph. Is this the first time that you've done an interview since he passed?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how you feeling, how you holding up. I mean, obviously, something that's...
I'm content.
Those bars read like a confession laid over a beat. The courtroom buzzed with disbelief as prosecutors pointed out how the lines mirrored the violence Dolph had endured. Even wilder were Johnson's social media moves. On January 8th, 2022, posts appeared on an Instagram account tied to him. One read, "Turning myself in Monday at 2:01. I'm innocent and I'll be back sooner than you can blink." That 2:01 wasn't random. It was a straight reference to the Shelby County Jail address, almost like he was promoting his own arrest. The case against Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith wasn't built on talk alone. It was stacked high with receipts. Prosecutors rolled out video footage from the scene, cell phone records pinging Johnson's phone near Makita's bakery at the exact time of the ambush, and even Smith's fingerprints sitting bold inside the getaway car. The web of evidence was so tight it looked impossible to slip through. And that getaway car? It told its own story. The white Mercedes-Benz used in the shooting wasn't random. It was stolen, a move that showed this wasn't a sloppy street move, but a well-thought-out mission. Every angle screamed premeditation, like the shooters had planned not only the murder but their escape step by step. What really rattled people, though, was the tone Smith described in planning sessions. These weren't wild, emotional rants or spur-of-the-moment threats. Prosecutors said the conspirators talked about killing Young Dolph the way businessmen discuss contracts. Cold, calculated, no hesitation. This wasn't about a heated beef anymore. It was presented as a business move with blood on the balance sheet, where street justice translated to execution orders. When the verdict dropped, the room felt like history was being written. September 26, 2024, Justin Johnson was handed a life sentence for his role in Dolph's killing. The judge didn't hold back, labeling him a dangerous offender who showed zero regard for human life. To many, that ruling felt like the closing chapter of one of hip-hop's darkest sagas. But in reality, it was just the start of a new phase in this twisted street drama, because while Johnson's fate was sealed, the story was far from over. Cornelius Smith, the man whose testimony flipped the case upside down, still has his own day in court coming. His trial is scheduled for November 15, 2025, and the streets are buzzing over whether he'll pay for his role or keep cutting deals. And hovering over it all is Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind pulling strings in the shadows. His trial date is locked for July 28, 2025, and the world is waiting to see if the man accused of orchestrating the entire hit will finally face justice. The wheels of justice may turn slow inside a courtroom, but out in Memphis, justice came quick and brutal.
When you say content, what does that mean? Like
I'm maintaining. Like I'm not getting better. I'm not getting worse. I'm just here right now.
Yeah. Do you feel like sometimes you just catch yourself stuck, maybe in a cycle, just of emotion?
All the time. I can't shake it, bro. I can't ignore it. I ain't gonna lie.
In the wake of Young Dolph's murder, the city erupted into a wave of retaliatory violence that left bodies dropping and the streets buzzing with fear. What followed wasn't just random chaos.
Do you remember how you found out and where you were?
Never forget. Yep.
Where were you at?
I was at home. Laying down.
It was the kind of bloody aftermath that cements a feud into legend. When word spread about Johnson's conviction, big names in hip-hop began to weigh in. Boozy, never shy about calling it how he sees it, shared his take on the case. His words hit heavy.
And did somebody call you or?
Somebody called me in the house. Like, how you can hear when somebody call your name, like the tone of their voice, like you know something wrong, you just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Reflecting on the sentencing, he made it clear that in the streets, the line between legal justice and street justice is complicated. For some, the courtroom verdict meant closure. For others, it meant nothing compared to the blood that had already been spilled. The first warning sign that Dolph's murder wouldn't go unanswered came almost immediately.
Obviously, it's not something that anybody saw coming or even should have happened in the first place, but what kind of things have you been doing to try to be better and to try to, move past? Do you have people close to you that, maybe you're trying to keep your mind occupied or, maybe you're trying to just distract yourself? What kind of ways have you been?
Man, ain't nothing. Nobody can tell me it ain't nothing I can do that'll make me feel better. I'm just be 100.
Reports surfaced of violence exploding across Memphis. More than a dozen people shot in one night, at least 3 killed. The city wasn't just grieving, it was hunting. The streets were searching for anyone tied to the ambush that took one of Memphis's most beloved sons. But what shocked everyone wasn't just the scale of the violence, it was how systematic it appeared. According to All Rap News, the retaliation wasn't random. It stretched over 3 years, a campaign of revenge allegedly carried out by Paper Route Empire affiliates determined to settle the score. And then came the most high-profile hit of them all. January 13th, 2024, Anthony Big Jook Mims, Yo Gotti's older brother and CMG enforcer, got lit up outside Perignon's restaurant in Memphis. He wasn't at war that day. He was attending a funeral gathering. But when the shots rang out, the streets whispered the same thing. This was payback. To many, Big Jook's killing was seen as the fulfillment of the vow Dolph's people had allegedly made. Revenge would come one way or another. The streets called it justice. Others called it another tragedy in a cycle that refuses to break. But one thing was undeniable. Dolph's death didn't just take a legend. It sparked a storm that turned Memphis into a battlefield where legal rulings and street codes collided in blood. What really sealed Big Jook's fate in the streets wasn't just the whispers about his role in the plot, it was his own mouth. Right after Dolph's murder, he hopped on a live stream that would come back to haunt him. Instead of silence or respect, Juk was laughing, mocking, and throwing shade at struggling rappers trying to survive in Dolph's absence. The timing was brutal, too close to the tragedy, too cold for a city still bleeding. To many, it felt like he wasn't just ignoring the pain, he was celebrating it. That kind of energy painted a target on his back, and soon the streets answered. But Juk wasn't the only one. Others who disrespected Dolph's memory found themselves caught in the storm. Darian Muni Childs, a local comedian, cracked jokes online about Dolph's death. Days later, he was gone, gunned down in Memphis. His killing was seen as a clear warning. Laughing at Dolph's death came with consequences. And the list didn't stop there. In January 2022, Big Nusk, tied to Straight Drop through social ties, got dropped himself. Not long after, Joshua Taylor, better known as CEO Tay, was found dead with gunshot wounds after being pegged as a figure connected to the Dolph murder plot. Piece by piece, names tied to the conspiracy started falling, painting the picture of a systematic revenge campaign that stretched across years. Paper Route Empire wasn't just a label, it was a brotherhood. And when its leader was taken, the family went to war. Key Glock, Dolph's cousin and closest collaborator, stepped into that void. He never flat out admitted to leading any retaliation, but his presence, his words, and his silence spoke volumes. In his first sit-down interview after Dolph's passing, Glock opened up about the weight he carried. He admitted he felt trapped, unable to move forward, chained to the pain of losing his cousin. The interviewer pressed him harder. What did content even mean to him now? Glock's response wasn't polished, it wasn't staged, it was raw. He spoke about how the moment he found out about Dolph's murder burned into his memory like a scar that would never fade. He described the shock, the numbness, and the wave of despair that swallowed him whole. And when they asked him how he was coping, his answer revealed a man who hadn't healed at all. A man still carrying grief so heavy it bled into everything he touched. The message from Paper Route Empire couldn't have been louder. Young Dolph's death would not slide unanswered. Anyone who played a hand in the murder or even dared to laugh at his downfall was going to face consequences. This wasn't about waiting on judges and gavels. This was about street justice, served with the same cold precision that prosecutors say was used to plot Dolph's assassination in the first place. But the fallout went way deeper than the shooters or the rivals. It crushed families. Dolph's fiancée, b.i.g, spoke out more than once about how left out she felt, learning case updates from blogs and headlines instead of from the system itself. Her heartbreak wasn't just personal, it became a symbol of how badly the system fumbled not only in protecting Dolph but also in supporting those left behind. Even the killers' families weren't untouched by the chaos. Jamarcus Johnson, Justin Johnson's own half-brother, pled guilty to accessory charges after helping hide his brother when the heat came down. That plea showed how far the tentacles of this conspiracy reached. It didn't just pull in shooters and masterminds, it dragged in relatives, friends, and anyone reckless enough to help cover up the mess. Suddenly, entire households were caught in a web of betrayal and bloodshed. And it isn't over. The trials of Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan are still hanging heavy over Memphis. Prosecutors promise those cases will peel back even more layers of the conspiracy. Names, meetings, connections that could expose just how high this deadly plot really reached. But the truth is, no matter what else comes out in court, the damage is permanent. Because Dolph is gone. A father, a partner, a son, and one of Memphis's most beloved voices in hip-hop, snatched away in gunfire that turned the city into a war zone. Families shattered, crews broken, and a community left to reckon with the ugly crossroads where music, money, and murder collide. Young Dolph's empire stood for independence, for building your own lane without bowing to industry pressure. His murder, and everything that unraveled after, proved just how threatening that kind of power can be. And while courts can hand out life sentences, the streets made sure nobody forgot the cost of crossing Dolph's name. If you made it this far, sound off in the comments. Do you think Dolph's legacy will outshine the violence tied to his name? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.